Hi, Daniel and Diana and Graham and Helen. Hi, Kirby and Shannon and Jacqueline. And hi, Dr. Okeke. Hi to those of you joining us via recording. Welcome back. If you were able to join us for our study skills session for student success earlier this week, welcome back. If this is your first session joining us this week, glad to have you. And if you haven't had a chance to review the first session yet, there's a recording available that the admissions counselors have and that we will also make available in the study skills and test taking strategies classroom for you. So Dr. Okeke and I are so glad to have each and every one of you here for Study Skills for Student Success Session 2. The purpose of these sessions is really just give you some practice and build your confidence in getting your study strategy and your test taking skills to the point where you start to feel comfortable exploring different types of study strategies and thinking about the strategies and skills that you're going to be used for test taking at OUM. And we really want to just introduce these things in kind of a low pressure, low stress environment before you get into class and start fire hose. That was what we were talking about in our session 1. So in the first session, we talked a little bit about the fundamentals of studying how to create systems of support, including with your student success advisor and others, and really how to kind of create the right environment and mindset and space for you to thrive in your new life as a medical student, wherein studying becomes a part of your daily practice, a part of your daily life. In today's session, in session 2 today, we're going to be doing a mock SSA, which is a mock student success advisor session. So Dr. Okeke is going to be the student success advisor, and I'm going to be the student. So we'll run that first, and then we will be having a mock study hall where we'll go through that timeline that I shared in session 1, and we'll actually go through. If we even have time, we'll do it twice, but at least once in the session to kind of give you a chance to brush up and get into those kinds of skills. And we will be taking a 5-minute break at the top of the hour. So Dr. Okeke, have I missed anything? Is there anything you'd like to add? Is there any message you want to send to students about the purpose of our study skills for student success sessions? Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Associate Professor McGuire. I think you covered everything beautifully. I just wanted to say welcome to students who are just now joining us. Welcome back to everyone. I do want to say thank you to Shanda and Marietta. I forgot to thank them the other day because I know that they've been working very, very hard with students to connect them to these resources that we have here. So I'm excited to see everybody, and you can do it. That was the theme from last time. It's the theme this time again. You can do it. Thank you, Associate Professor McGuire.
Thanks, Dr. Okeke. So we're going to start with a mock SSA session. And to make that a little bit more realistic, Dr. Okeke is going to start calling me Nicolette instead of Associate Professor McGuire through the whole thing. Or you can go back and forth. It's totally up to you.
Sure.
And just to give you all a chance to see what that would be like. So Dr. Okeke, would you like to introduce this session?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much, Associate Professor McGuire. So as she mentioned, the Student Success Advising Program, again, is your, as Carolyn said yesterday, almost your cheerleader of this support person, one of the support personnel here at OUM to walk alongside you, accompany you in your journey to medical education. And Student Success Advising sessions are typically 30 minutes. Once a week. They can run up to an hour. That depends on you and your student success advisor. But there are a bevy of things that your student success advisor can go through. And we're going to show you a mock session. But the other study skill session that we had the other day showed the study skill sessions page that Associate Professor McGuire has put together. And that's just one of the resources. So we're going to walk through it and just show you some of the benefits that you can get from the program. It's completely optional, but we just want to introduce this to you and let you know that this is one of the host of resources that we have here at OUM to make sure that your success is our priority. So I am ready to begin when you are, Associate Professor McGuire.
Hi, Dr. Okeke. Thanks for meeting with me today.
Hi, Nicolette. It's good to see you. How have things been going this week? I know this was your first week of general principles, and I know that you got a lot of information. So I just love to hear how things went for you, what you learned, not just the content, but what did you learn about the course and approach to the course, and just want to hear some feedback from you.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed.
Mm,
I, I talked to students before I started. I attended, orientation. I came to these like study skills for success sessions. And, I kept hearing that it was going to be like drinking from a fire hose. And Dr. Owen even said, like, we turn it on right away. I felt like I was going to be like, okay with that, but I do feel a little bit overwhelmed.
mm.
And I know that it's a lot of material and I'll know like I'll kind of get it, but I feel a little overwhelmed.
Sure.
And I
And
feel like everybody else knows more than me.
oh, well, first of all, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate you being open and honest. Second of all, I want to get a definition from you of what okay meant. I know you said okay, and so I'd love to know on a barometer of scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being, yeah, I got what we learned this week, and 1 being, I have no idea what we're talking about. So where does okay lie in that spectrum?
I think I'm probably like a 5.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take a 5. I also heard you say the other O word, which is overwhelmed. I heard okay
Yeah.
and overwhelmed. And I just want to tell you, Nicolette, that overwhelmed is a normal feeling in medical school. So I just want you to sit with that for a second and let you know that there are a lot of students who feel overwhelmed. I felt overwhelmed. Many people in your class feel overwhelmed. People before you felt overwhelmed. So that's a normal feeling. But I do want to know, one, what did you do with that overwhelmed feeling? Were you able to get through your study plan, which we need to talk about in a second, what that study plan
Okay.
looks like, but were you able to get through it? Did you not get through it? Just tell me a little more about what you did when you felt overwhelmed.
So like when I went to the live classes and I had like put that in my study schedule that I was going to attend live because I'm someone that just like needs that motivation to actually go and be there and like pay attention because otherwise I'll just put off like going to a 2-hour session as I'm recording. But I found when I was in the session that they were like using a lot of terms that I hadn't learned before, and I felt like, and nobody was asking questions about it. So I was just like, oh, everyone else must know these. And I was just like trying to furiously write them all down. And so like I kind of made my study plan knowing that these were going to be the topics that we were learning. But now I have to put additional time into actually like learning the terminology. And I did something I didn't plan for. So that feels a little overwhelming.
Sure. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I definitely heard what you said. And I heard that there was a lot of terminology that came at you this week in your general principles course. And you also feel like everyone else knows more than you. But I can tell you, I heard overwhelmed and I heard medical terminology, and there's so many people feeling just like you. I do want to commend you, first of all, on attending live classes. We highly encourage
Thanks.
that. So good deal. And we're going to celebrate small wins. And I think that small wins get to big wins. So, one, you attended live sessions and you got through them. That's a good thing. The second thing you did was that I heard you said you had a study plan. Now, even if you didn't get through your entire study plan, you did have a plan. So, I do want us to take a little deeper dive in
Sure.
that plan. And I would like to start with the fact I want to know how much studying you calculated in hours and content that you covered. Did you iron out your study plan each day with what you were going to study and then do the checklist of what you accomplished? Or did you say, I'm going to study this topic and then this topic and then not check them off? Where did you go with that study plan?
Okay. So They gave us in class, they give us like this list that says like it's a list of topics. And so there's like 8 topics on the list. And then they have like this like PowerPoint that goes with the workshop. And then they have like these 2 cases and they give us like a PowerPoint for that. And then there's like a chat, kind of student-led session. So I based my study plan on like going through the content that was in those topics and then the content that they said in the case discussions and the workshop. And so, and I heard in orientation and in our study skills session that I was supposed to have 40 hours a week. So I was like, oh, well, like I have to, when I get up in the morning, like I have to take my kids to school.
Sure.
And then I have a few hours like between 9 and noon, where I don't have any like responsibilities. But then like usually between 1 and 3, like my kids are only in school half the day. So then I've got them then before I'm able to like take them into daycare. So then I've got from 1 to 3. So then I have from 3 to 5 as well. And then after they get back from daycare, then my mom comes a couple of days a week and my partner is there. So then like after dinner, I'm able to put in additional like 3 hours or so. So that's how I did kind of my daily
Okay.
study plan. And then I just tried to just go through the list. So I just kind of left it sequential. I was like, okay, on the first day, the first hour, like I'm just gonna do topic 1.
Yeah, thanks, Nicolette. I heard you say as you walked me through the time that you had, I heard 9 to 12. I think I heard 3 to 5, and I think I heard some post dinner, post kids going to bedtime.
Yeah,
If that's correct.
yeah.
And I'm in the math in my head is 3 hours here, 2, which is 5, and then maybe 2 more hours after dinner. I heard about 7 hours, and I'm assuming this is Monday to Friday, not including the Saturday and Sunday schedule. And it sounds like maybe your schedule could vary because, taking kids to school and then the time that they come back from work. But I think that you've done well in segmenting some of that time. We can't create more time than is in the day. And so you segmented some of that time, but I like that you refer to those topics that OUM releases in a part of your learning material. Those topics are called those topic learning objectives. And I think that's what you were referring to. And
Yeah,
the topic, yeah, that's a great place to start with studying. I would recommend that for any student, taking those topic learning objectives and breaking those down to make sure that you're covering that material and mastering that. I would also recommend, Nicolette, because that material is released, usually that material is released on a Friday before the week starts.
yeah.
Yeah,
Dr.
okay.
Owen is really good about that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So when that material is released on that Friday before the week starts, what I always tell students is a good study goal is to make sure that during that week that you covered that material and not get behind on it. And it sounds to me that even though you were overwhelmed, even though you were introduced to new medical terminology, that you kept up with that material, even if you don't know it perfectly, you still stayed on top of it. So that's another small win. And I'm going to commend you for that, Nicolette. Now, I do want to ask you, did you take advantage of the office hours? Because you know that each class has office hours where you can actually meet with the course director in a group setting and ask questions and get feedback. Were you able to take advantage of that?
I saw that it was offered, but I just didn't want to go because I felt like other people would know more than me and I would just feel like I don't know that it would look like I just didn't know as much. So I didn't want to go.
Well, Nicolette, that's a common thing I hear from students. A lot of students are always concerned that people know more than them. But what can I tell you that we're having this safe environment at OUM where it's not cutthroat, where we really are lifting each other up and learning in a safe space, where everyone is here just to be a really good physician. And so just know that when you're going to office hours and when you're posing questions, other people have those questions too. So it really is a convivial learning environment where everyone is trying to lift everyone up. So I do encourage you to take advantage of those office hours because they're offered each week. You missed them this week, that's okay. Make sure you build them into your study plan. Make sure you build them into your time. But it sounds like you're on a good track. But I'm just wondering, what do you see yourself doing differently next week?
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure, absolutely.
So, like part of my overwhelm, I think is like the terminology. So like, would that be a good space to like ask questions about that? Or like, what would yeah,
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely. That's a great space to ask about that medical terminology. And I'm so glad that you brought that up again because, there's so many resources that Dr. Owen has in General Principles. There's actually a medical terminology glossary. Now, a lot of students
Oh,
don't take
okay.
advantage of it.
I
Don't
didn't know
take
that it was there.
Well, see, this is the beautiful thing that OUM has so many resources. Like we actually have a medical terminology glossary of terms that students come across all the time. So that's just one of the many resources. We have the basic science library. We have the OUM library with clinical key. But just to answer your question, the office hours are a great space to ask those questions on concepts that you want to get cleared up. And the professor is there to answer those kind of questions. So I would definitely recommend that. Don't worry about not knowing everything from day one or week one or month one. That's why you're in medical school, Nicolette. You're here to learn. So
Okay.
I just want to, but that was a great question. Do you have other questions?
Well, when you were kind of talking through what my actual hours were and saying that there were like 7 in a day, I was like, actually, that probably isn't 40. So like, how do I know if I'm studying enough
Yeah,
hours? Like, what will be the indication to me? Because like, I feel like tired after I've done that. I feel like I've like spent a lot of time doing it.
sure.
So how would I know that it's like enough
Sure. Yeah,
time?
that's a really good question. So, if we just took that Monday and you did maybe 7 on Monday, if you did 5 on Tuesday, if you did 5 on Wednesday, and we're keeping track of the number of hours, we definitely want to check off and then subtract each week. You're starting with that 40 and you're subtracting each day and keeping track of your hours, because it's really important not just to keep track of the number of hours, but the content that you covered. So that will give you a little more confidence in that you're covering enough material. So definitely keep track of it because I know that days change and schedules change. Now, I will say this, Nicolette, if by Monday to Friday you haven't reached your 40-hour mark, and of course we want to count in the weekend, it's a good place that a lot of students make up ground. Make sure that you account for those hours that you didn't make through the week on the weekend. Now, I don't want you to do a 12-hour marathon without getting up and stretching and taking a bio break
Yeah.
and yeah, taking some self-care time, but I definitely want you to keep track of your hours during the week and see where you need to make those adjustments. But keep track of the content that you're covering again. And I want to say this to you again, Nicolette. When OUM releases that module of the topic learning objectives, the cases, all of those things, the videos that you were talking about. The goal is to make sure that during that week that you're covering that material so that you don't get behind on week one's material and try to catch up on week 2 and week 3.
Yeah.
It builds. They're building blocks. So really good questions. I will say this last thing to you, Nicolette. Have you found a partner that you can study with, that you can bounce ideas off of, that you maybe one person or 2 or 3 people that you can just ask, hey guys, I came across this. What did you think? Have you made those connections yet?
Our cohort is like really good because when we first started connecting, there were some people in the cohort that like right away made WhatsApp groups.
Good.
And we do have like a cohort WhatsApp group, and I got to meet some people like at the meet and greet and the study skills sessions. And there was during a week there was like a student social where I got to meet everybody, and we had like some breakout rooms where I got to meet some people in my area, and then we did like just a random groups too. And there were like a few people that I connected with and I thought would be like people that I would like to study with, but I just haven't reached out yet because I guess I've just been too focused on like making sure that I have planned things and have gotten to the material, so I haven't made the time to reach out yet.
Yeah, and you know, these are good things that you told me about. We don't have to learn everything at one time, or we don't have to do everything at one time. But I would say that just keep an eye out and be open to meeting your classmates, because I guarantee you, if you have the question, Nicolette, there are 3 or 4 other people who have the question as well. Class is a great time to ask questions in the chat box. And if you don't want to ask questions in the chat box and you can't make it to office hours, you can always email your instructors. OUM is really, really a good place for asking questions and getting answers and getting feedback. So I just want to recap what we talked about here in this session. We talked about your study plan, which sounds like that you're on a good start with your study plan, but just want to document what you cover, making sure that you hit that 40 hours of studying a week, making sure that you cover those topic learning objectives, and that material that's released on that Friday, staying on top of it through the week to make sure that you finish it before the next set of material comes as well. So in our next session, Nicolette, we'll talk about concept mapping, which is a way to kind of diagram out some of that information, talking about that medical terminology and putting it together with those processes so that we can learn those for long-term memory and recall those for examinations and beyond. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, I think like Dr. Bala was talking about concept mapping and orientation, so I think that would be really good. Um, I think just having like a few different things to like mix it up, because I don't want it to get like studying to get monotonous and me doing the same thing every time. I think I don't know. I just might get in like a slump if I do that. So I think that would be really helpful if we do that next time.
I completely agree. Studying is almost like exercising for the brain. You know, when you go to the gym, you don't want to stay on one piece of equipment and you want to mix it up a little bit. And so it'll
Yeah.
be interesting and fresh, and that you're using all those muscles together. So I agree with you. We'll mix a bevy of tools together so that you can use those. But we can talk about that in the next session. And then, of course, if you need me before then, you can always send me an email. But until then, you know, I want you to be positive. Use that medical terminology glossary that's available for general principals and other students too. But you know, we'll talk more each week about what resources are available. But be encouraged, Nicolette. You're on the right track.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
I just have like one question, and you said that there's like lots of people at OUM to support, and I just don't know like who to ask. So like, can I ask you this question?
Yeah.
It hasn't happened yet, but I'm just like nervous that like, um, I mean, it will happen, right? Like that my child will get sick, or like I'll need to take the
Mhm.
dog to the vet. Like something will happen
Mhm.
unexpectedly. So like, what should I do if like my study schedule says I'm studying 7 hours today, but then I can't do that because um, something unexpected has happened. So what do I do in that situation? Like if my kid gets sick, what should I do?
Yeah, so I think I hear 2 parts to that question. So one, study schedules are plans that, and plans have, sometimes they have to be adjusted. And so we understand that, and we're very accommodating here at OUM. Now, if I'm hearing the other part of the question, and just correct me if I misheard that, what happens if you get sick, if you can't not just attend a live session, but if you get thrown off, and then are you
Yeah.
referring to, okay, yeah, so I definitely would contact, one, you can start with me as your student success advisor, but two, also when things come up, you know, we have a wonderful associate dean of student engagement, named Dr. McGuire.
I did not plan that question.
Dr. McGuire, who can give you some very good information, but I can definitely
That's
direct
true.
you to the resources that you need. So yeah, and I don't know if you were also talking about exams and things of that nature, but I can definitely point you to the person that you need to speak to.
Okay, thanks. I really appreciate it. Um, I I feel a little bit like less overwhelmed, and I'm looking forward to this week and to talking about concept mapping next week. So thanks, Dr. Okike.
Good, good. Well, I just want you to make sure that you budget in some time for yourself. You do need to be your best self. I heard that you were doing all that studying and family time and partner time, but make sure you're sleeping and eating too. That's a part of student success too, because you've got to take care of you. So we'll definitely talk about that again next time, but it's okay to be overwhelmed just as long as it's in its appropriate place so that you can move forward. Next week will be better.
Okay, thanks. And see?
And scene. You said it.
All right. Dr. Keiki, do you want to see if there are any questions about
Love to.
SSAs?
I think so.
Before we move on to the next topic. So if you have any questions about our mock session or about SSAs or how to sign up or anything like that, you can feel free to ask right now. You can use the chat window. You can click the reactions button and raise a hand if you'd like to take the microphone, but Dr. Okeke is happy to take any questions you might have. So we'll just pause for that.
And while we're waiting on the questions, Associate Professor McGuire, I was wondering if you were asking about, I know I threw it back on you to contact you, but I'm just wondering, so students probably do have questions about, what happens if you miss an exam because you're ill or your child is ill or a family member's ill. And I don't know if that's something for orientation week or what your thoughts are on that.
It's okay if you get ill or
Sure.
a family member gets ill or a pet gets ill or,
Yeah.
some people have family members all around the globe and they've got to leave at a moment's notice to
Right.
help and do something.
Right.
The way that our university is set up enables you to continue on with your studies, even when
Sure.
things like that happen. So there are numerous things that are available for us to support you through all kinds of unexpected changes. The one thing to think about is like just plan for unexpected changes to occur.
Mhm.
And it's okay. The main thing that you need to do if something unexpected happens is tell someone
That's
that is
right.
on the staff or faculty of OUM, and they will
Mhm.
direct you to what to do. Your SSA is an excellent person to tell. They will usually come and tell me, and come and tell Dr. Okeke, as long as I have your consent to do so, and then
Yes.
we'll reach out to you with the supports that are specific to your situation
Yes.
and give you some choices about what to do. So you don't need to like memorize a whole list of them. Just let us know when something happens and we'll provide support that's specific to you.
Awesome.
Okay, I do see some questions in the chat window. Shannon would like everyone to know that there is a WhatsApp group for those who haven't joined, so reach out to Shannon. And Kirby says, so how do we sign up for the SSA? I'm thinking it will be very helpful. Thank you.
Yay. Great question. First of all, thank you, Shannon, for the WhatsApp group information. And then Kirby, to sign up for SSA, you go to advisor.request@oum.edu.ws. That email I'm going to drop in the chat box later. It's also on the study skills sessions page. Once you send the email to that advisor.request@oum.edu.ws, you'll get a response back, and then you'll get matched with a student success advisor. You all will set up a time to meet and then have this introductory conversation, and then just kind of your, things that you're concerned about, kind of like our mock session. So yes, that's the way you do it. And you will get a response as soon as you send in an email request for that. Awesome.
Jacqueline says, thanks for the mock session. How long are the recordings available after the sessions in case of sick kids, etc.? So she may be speaking about the recorded sessions with your SSA and maybe speaking about the recorded sessions in class. So maybe we'll just answer both.
Okay.
And Jacqueline, if you want to take the mic, you can clarify. That's fine too. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
I was talking about, so thank you for the mock session. It was really some of those dilemmas definitely I may face as well. So it was really appreciated. Yeah, so I was talking about the live recordings, like the actual principles of the course sessions, how long they would be available in case we can't make the live session, or we need to look back at that recording. Is it available within the next week or that following weekend?
Yeah, so the live sessions are all Zoom sessions,
Mhm.
and there is a space in every classroom that says link to Zoom sessions, and you click on that link, and it takes you to a page that has it'll say upcoming sessions, and then you click to go to your live session, and then there's another tab that says recordings.
Yep.
So every time a
Sure.
class is held, their recording is available and archived on your class page. So in the 8th week of general principles, you'll have 8 weeks worth of recordings that are all accessible from the same place. So if you miss a session, you can just go back in there multiple times,
Yeah.
anytime
Okay.
during the class, and access it. And also if you're doing your revisions,
Mhm.
and you like to go back to your recordings and listen to recordings as part of revisions, or you're like, oh, like I have in my notes that I want to go back to here, I wasn't really sure about that, you can go back to those recordings and use them for studying. So they're available throughout the entire class.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
Helen wants to know, how can we access session 1 of the study skills session? So you're all enrolled in the study skills and test taking strategies Moodle page.
Mhm.
So once you have your OUM login, you're able to go into that, onto that page. It'll be in your dashboard, and you go to that Zoom links part, and you can access those sessions. So that session will be available to you for your entire time you're at OUM. So if you want to go back and
Mhm.
do a mental check-in about how you felt before you started, and want to go back to that study session a year later. Anyways, it'll be there for you. And then if you don't yet have access through that, after both of the sessions are complete, we'll kind of send a thank you email out that'll have the links to the recorded sessions. You do have to have an OUM email address to access those. Okay. Okay, we're just about at the halfway part of the session, so we're going to move on to the mock study hall portion. So I'm just going to pull back up my slide deck so that I can walk everyone through what our mock study hall is going to look like. Okay, so we showed this slide at the end of the last session, and I'm just going to walk us through it again for everyone's benefit. So the purpose of our mock study session is really to give a chance for active study. That was one of the skills that we really stressed in the first session. So we want you to be in the habit of having a focused period of active study. So when Dr. Okeke was talking to Nicolette about the 7 hours that she did each day, what she wanted Nicolette to do in those 7 hours was not be a passive consumer of information, but to be actively engaging with the material that she was studying on all of those topics for those 7 hours of each day. So a format like this is intended to kind of support you to do that and to give you enough mental stamina and brain power to be able to sustain that for 7 to 8 hours a day or longer. Okay, so the way that this works is that you take a few minutes to kind of just plan, get in the right headspace for being in a study session, and you pick a topic that you're going to study. Dr. Okeke and I were talking about using your topic learning objectives or using your content from your case studies or your workshops, etc. Any of those would be great topics to choose for something like this. Today, we're going to choose the topics for you since you don't have those yet. And the topic that we're going to choose today is Guyton and Hall. So Dr. Okeke is shaking her head yes, because Guyton and Hall is a very popular medical textbook.
Yeah.
It will be in every single one of your classes. So we're going to have you choose a topic from Guyton and Hall, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. Once you've chosen a topic, then I want you to engage actively with it. That could be reading and pausing and saying something back to yourself, reading and pausing, making a note in your own words, reading and pausing, telling that to someone else in the room, could be your cat, could be the photos in your space, could be the person next to you at the coffee shop, whatever it is. and just any way that kind of just breaks up, that you're not just reading text, because a lot of times with reading material, you'll read and read and read and be like, oh, I was thinking about my grocery list and I forgot that. So actively engaging with the reading. So we're going to do that for 20 minutes. Then at the end of that 20 minutes, you'll summarize. You'll write down a statement or recite a statement, 1 to 2, sometimes 3 sentences about what you just learned. Then we'll write a question. So what the questions that I would focus on are doing what we call an MCQ, a multiple choice question, or a short answer question. So a multiple choice question should have some basis in the topic that you just studied. It really doesn't matter at this point. In our second set, we'll kind of talk to you about the levels of multiple choice questions, but it really doesn't matter at this point what the structure of your question is. It should just have it should just be a question about what you just read and engaged with that has a correct answer and some answers that you think are incorrect. That's good enough for this point. Or you can just write a short answer question that's something like, list 3 symptoms. Just describe this, what's the definition of this disease? Just something short where you could answer it in a sentence. So write a question, and then we'll come back together and we'll share those questions. So during the mock active study session, you'll have a choice. So we're going to use breakout rooms in this session. One breakout room will be a quiet study room, and the other breakout room will be a group study room. So the quiet study room will have other people, but you'll be quietly studying together, okay? You won't be chatting, you'll just be occupying a space of support for other people who are quietly studying. And in the group study session, you guys will choose a topic together, and you guys will chat and work together through that topic. Okay, so it's up to you. You can choose whichever one you want. I'm not keeping tabs on what you're going to choose. You guys just figure it out. Okay, so let's go to the pick a topic, and then I'll remind everybody what they're supposed to do before I send you off into breakout rooms. Okay, so the topic that you're going to choose is something from this textbook called Guyton and Hall Textbook of Medical Physiology. I'm just going to copy this link and put it in the chat. So you can use this link directly to get into that. It will take you here to the Guyton and Hall Textbook of Medical Physiology if you are logged into Clinical Key. If you are not logged into Clinical Key, that link will take you here to the login page. So if you have already set up your Clinical Key, you can log in with your username and password. If you have not done that, you can register and do that now with your OUM email address, or you can do the institutional login where it will just ask you what university you are at, which is Oceana. You have to write out Oceana, and it'll come up and you click Oceana University of Medicine, and that'll help you log in. Okay, so those are your options. If you still cannot get into Clinical Key, do not spend the 20 minutes trying to get into Clinical Key. You have a second option, which is to go to a free website called Stat Pearls. That will have a number of topics that you can choose from. So what I would like to do if you've gone into Guyton and Hall is once you get into the breakout room, just have a look over 5 minutes and just choose any topic in any of these chapters that pique your interest. It makes no difference to me. Anything that you think is cool. I would choose optics of vision. I think that's kind of cool. So I would click on it and it'll give me a chapter and I can start engaging with that material over that 20 minutes. If I'm in Stat Pearls, I might just choose an AAA, an abdominal aortic aneurysm, and it'll give me some information to look up and read about that, and I can engage with over the 20 minutes. Okay, so if you are I'm gonna go back. So if you are going to the group study room, choose something together, either in Guyton and Hall or in Stat Pearls. If you're going to the quiet study room, choose whatever you would like. We will be, I move this out of the way so I can see what time it is. We will be gone for the 20 minutes for you to read and the 5 minutes for you to summarize, which means that we will be back at 5 minutes past the hour, wherein we'll take a short break and then we'll start in on the group work together. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the breakout rooms now. So it'll give you three. Just 1 second, quiet. And group. Let's see. Okay, so I'm opening all rooms now. And so you should have a pop-up that enables you to choose a room. Okay, so choose a room, go to Guyton and Hall or to Stat Pearls, choose a topic, actively read for 20 minutes, summarize, question, come back. Okay, so we'll see you at 5 after the hour. If you haven't yet been able to choose a room, you can type in the chat window which you would like, the quiet or the group, and I will assign you to that room. Hi, Helen. Just let me know which room you'd like to go to, quiet or group, and I will place you there. Actually, it'll take them about 60 seconds to come back. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We are going to take a short break and then we'll come back and do a bit of debrief and sharing. And if we have time, we'll do a second active study session with some practice questions that we've prepared for you. Okay, so we will see you in 5 minutes. Okay, everyone, we'll give everyone about 30 seconds to get restarted, and I've knocked over my third water of the day on my floor, so I'm just gonna wipe that up in a moment and we're going to get started. Okay, so I hope you all had a great introduction to Guyton and Hall if it wasn't a textbook that you'd seen before. And if it was something that you'd seen before, welcome back to that lovely textbook that's going to become a very good friend of yours over the next couple of years and beyond. So I thought we would start with a bit of the share Q&A, explain A part. So would anyone like to share their summary statement? So if you would like to share, you can type your summary in the meeting chat, or you can also raise your hand if you'd like to take the microphone and share your summary statement about the topic that you chose.
I'm happy to do that if you like.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. It's Graham. I just can't find the hand symbol at the moment, but I'll go through. Look, I should indicate that I bought a copy of Guyton in 1983 and still have it. So bit of nostalgia there. And anyway, look, I looked at the cell, which was pretty much at the start of the index, and my summary is the cell is a functional building block of the human body. It's made up of protoplasm. Protoplasm contains and includes water, ions, protein, lipids, and carbs. The cell also importantly contains 5 organelles: endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, mitochondria, lysosomes, peroxisomes. And that's basically as far as I got with my overview. I tried to get what I thought was sort of the functional aspects of it that would tell us something. And I know that's short and sweet, but for my brain, that was sort of what I thought I got the most utility out of extracting.
That's awesome, Graham. And I think the most important thing is that it makes sense to you, right? And it's what you think is important and what you got out of it. And it will help you as you go back and read your statement later, help you to remember some of the things that you learned as you were going through that. So it's perfect. It's perfect. Love it. And I love
Wonderful.
the cell.
Thank you.
Favorite.
Thank you very
Perfect.
much.
Okay, would anyone else like to share their summary?
Happy to share mine, except that I have a bit of unstable internet at the moment, so I'm sorry if I drop out. I also looked at the cell because we're about to embark on cell learning. So the summary I had was really on DNA repair and proofreading. So do I tell you the summary first and then the Q&A?
Yeah, tell us your summary first, and then your
Okay, sure.
That's great.
Okay, so this is the period between DNA replication and the start of mitosis, lasting around an hour. This is a period when the DNA nucleotides are matched potentially inappropriately with the original strand. And then we have special enzymes that come in and remove the ineffective or the defective area, and it's replaced with complementary nucleotides. And then specifically because I'm in cancer research, I looked at mutations and why they occur, and this usually occurs in this period as well. And it's the formation of abnormal proteins that is happening during this period of DNA replication and cell mitosis.
I love the terminology that you're using, and that's really great because it'll help you kind of not only, have a chance to read them, but now you've written them down in context and now you've spoken about them as well. So you're getting used to kind of using medical terminology. which is really important in your classes because you'll be talking about and discussing things in class, and it helps you learn that terminology. And as you go through the medical systems, there's also opportunities for like oral assessment and that sort of thing. So that's great. Jacqueline, would you like to share your question? And as Jacqueline shares her question, you all others are able to provide and answer what they think to Jacqueline's question is by typing that in the chat window. So go ahead, Jacqueline.
So I've got questions of what I've just summarized, and then I also have an additional question. So maybe I'll do the additional question because that's the one that gets me it's a bit hard for me to remember. But what are the 5 stages of mitosis? And I did have an anagram that I thought up just then. I don't know if you want me to say my anagram as a hint.
Sure.
So it's please plan more affordable travel. Is my anagram. I had a few, but that was the one I went with. Yeah. So the 5 stages of mitosis. It's always hard for me.
I see some answers coming into the chat window. Keep them coming. Okay, Jacqueline, would you like to share your answer?
So it's, I think some of you did get it right. Prophase, prometaphase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jacqueline. I see that Kirby has shared their statement as well, so I'll read it out of the meeting chat. I did ECG fundamentals. The ECG is the recording of the electrical impulses that pass through the cardiac muscle, recording the depolarization and repolarization of the atria and ventricles that produces contraction and relaxation of the cardiac muscle fibers. And I like there's a lot of medical terminology there. There's a connection between what the ECG is and what it measures, and a connection to the anatomy. So I think that's a really fantastic summary as well. Dr. Okeke, you have any comments on the questions or summaries so far?
Yeah, I really echo everything that you said. I've heard some great summaries, and I can't reiterate enough, and you've already said it, Associate Professor McGuire, the use of medical terminology in oral assessments, written assessments. We really want you to get in this comfortable practice, and you don't have to know everything on the first day, but it's a great place to test your knowledge and to build your vocabulary and to predict questions, because a lot of times students will have challenges with questions because they're not familiar with the terminology. So that's a good place to kind of build that muscle. So you guys are doing a great job.
Thanks, Dr. Okeke.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have time to do one more active study session. And for this one, I've chosen the topic and talking about predictability of questions. I'm an endocrinology person, so I've chosen an endocrine topic, and I think it's one that will be interesting to others because it's something that people might know of before they've gone to medical school. And now you dive into the actual detail of what this means. So the topic we're going to cover is diseases of the thyroid gland. We'll do the same setup along the active study session. I'll probably shorten up the time with the material a little bit just to make sure we have time for the practice question. Also, you don't need to write a practice question for this one because I have some practice questions for you all to do that will kind of simulate some of the questions you might get in class. So we'll focus on, you don't need the time to pick a topic. You'll have the time to engage with the resource that I'm going to give you and some time to summarize, and then I'll bring you back. So you'll have a choice of going to the quiet study room or the group study room. And if you don't want to take time to find a resource, this is one that I would recommend on diseases of the thyroid gland. There's a chapter in Guyton and Hall, and this link will take you directly to the portion of that chapter that is diseases of the thyroid gland, and I'll put it in the chat window now. And then I will open the breakout rooms. Okay, you should have an option to join either room. If you want to join a different room than you had last time and you don't see that option, just pop me a note in the chat window and I will assign you there. Welcome back, everyone. As we're all heading back into the room, please let me know if you would like to share your summary. Again, you can take the microphone and provide your summary, or you can put it in the meeting chat if you'd like to share. No one wants to share their summary? Come on.
I can go for it.
Okay. Go ahead, Helen.
So the thyroid gland is about thyroid metabolic hormone. So the thyroid gland is located in between the larynx and the anterior, that's below the larynx and anterior to the trachea. And it is one of the largest organs. Is that organs? Yeah. weighing 15 to 20 grams in adults. So the gland secretes two major metabolic hormones, tyrosine, which is T4, and triiodothyronine, which is T3. Both of them control the metabolic rate, and they control the fall and the rise of the basal metabolic rate. So lack of the secretion reduces the basal metabolic rate to below the normal, and excessive secretion increases it to between 60 to 100% above the normal. So tyrosine, it secretes the two hormones. So the tyrosine that is secreted is about 93%, while triiodothyronine is about 70%. However, eventually the tyrosines are converted to triiodothyronine, which is more potent. It's about 4 times more potent than the tyrosine, and but it stays in the blood for a shorter time. So notably, both of them function, their function is same in quality, but they differ in intensity and rapidity. So the thyroid gland is composed of closed follicle known as colloid, and is responsible for the secretion of the hormones. The major constituent of the colloid is glycoprotein thyroglobulin, which contains thyroid hormone, that is tyrosine and thyroid. So
You can just say T3. You know what I'm saying?
that word is difficult. Anyway, and it mentions that I got that once the secretion gets into the follicle, it is absorbed back through the follicular epithelium, absorbed back into the blood. That is when it will be able to function properly. Thyroid gland secretes another hormone, C-cell, which contributes to the regulation of plasma calcium ion. Now, the iodine is required for proper formation of tyrosine. And when we ingest, we ingest it as a form of iodide, for example, iodized salt. So, and when we ingest
Helen,
it—
are you not so impressed with how much you've been able to learn in 20 minutes?
Okay, I'll stop there then.
I mean, you learned that in 20 minutes. That's very good. And I really like that you're also just using the terms, even you're like, I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce it correctly, but I'm going to continue to keep using it and to think about it in context. So that's great.
Until I start pronouncing it correctly.
Yeah, that's good. And then Graham was also provided some information from the text about diseases of thyroid, including providing a summary of hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism, including Hashimoto's disease. So if you'd like a little bit more information from Graham, you can see that in the chat window. So we just have about a minute or so left. So I do want to leave you with the questions, only for you to just get a sense of the level of detail that you're going to be learning in your courses and the level of questions that you're going to be able to answer as you go through general principles, as you go into cardiovascular system, as you do urinary and pulmonary and endocrine, etc. Okay, so I want to show you what we call a first order question and a second or third order question. So this first one is a first order question. So in a first order question, you'll get some clinical information, and then it'll ask you for a diagnosis. So here it's saying the histologic section below shows diffuse infiltration of thyroid parenchyma with lymphocytes and plasma cells, lymphoid follicle formation with germinal centers. You'll know all those, how to pick that out on the histologic section. This histology is most consistent with the diagnosis of, and then it gives you a list of different types of thyroid gland disorders and diseases, which are some of the things that you just read about. So you'll be able to know to the level of detail, even looking at a histologic section from a patient, you'll be able to differentiate what some of those thyroid disorders are. So you could take a guess in the chat window about whether you think this section is showing de Quervain thyroiditis. Maybe some of you picked up some of that in your reading. Hashimoto's thyroiditis, I saw that Graham got to that one. Focal lymphocytic thyroiditis, Riedel fibrosing thyroiditis, or congenital thyroid hyperplasia, or thyroid aplasia. So you see those are all plausible answers because they're all disorders of the thyroid gland. So first order, it's giving you a bit of clinical information and then asking you for a diagnosis. So if you're writing practice questions, you might write a practice question that level, give you some clinical information, and then ask about a diagnosis. That would be a first order question. Provide some plausible answers, including the correct one, which this one is Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and provide yourself some explanation of why Hashimoto's thyroiditis is correct and why the others are not correct. So for example, here, B, Hashimoto's thyroiditis is the one that's associated with a diffuse infiltration of lymphocytes that cause the lymphoid pathology. So maybe some of you got that from the section of the reading. Maybe some of you focused in on Hashimoto's and just happened to know that and maybe get the answer. Definitely not after 20 minutes would you be able to differentiate all of these, but you will be at a point where you'll be able to use all of the materials from class in your reading and engage actively with that material to be able to pick out the correct answer and differentiate using differential diagnosis to rule out the incorrect answers. So the right one here is Hashimoto's, just in case you wanted to know. And then, so that's a first order question, clinical information, and asks you for a diagnosis. Here's a second or third order question with this using the same structure. So it's the same histologic section. It's showing diffuse infiltration of thyroid parenchyma with lymphocytes and plasma cells, lymphoid follicle formation with germinal centers, exact same. Here it says the signs and symptoms of the condition caused by this pathology would be treated most effectively by which of the following. So it's not telling you what the condition is. It's saying, here's the clinical information. That's the first part. You figure out the diagnosis. And then once you know the diagnosis, tell me the correct medication to use in a patient with this condition. So that's second order. The third order is that here's the clinical information. You figure out the diagnosis. You determine what the signs and symptoms of that diagnosis are and tell me what medication treats those signs and symptoms. So that's your second or third order question. So you will see in your OUM exams, you'll see this kinds of things in board exam. You'll have a second order question, a third order question where it's actually asking you to kind of pull this information together, and you don't just get a direct answer. You've got to synthesize the information in order to get at the answer. And if you're curious, the answer here, the correct one, is lyo or levothyroxine, which is the treatment for Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is hypothyroidism. And there's inflammation in the thyroid gland that leads to destruction of the follicles that Helen mentioned, which prevents your ability to make T4 and T3. Thus, you go into a hypothyroid state. So you're providing thyroid hormone in order to bring back the metabolic rate. So you'll be able to provide those kinds of explanations and be able to rule in and out answers based on that. So those are the levels of questions that you're going to be getting at in your courses. And each week of your course, you're going to have a practice exam. So you'll get exposed to lots of these questions before you have to take your graded exams. And you can get in the habit of, when you're doing your active study, of writing these kinds of questions. So I do see there are some correct answers in the meeting chat, and that's great as well. Definitely, you didn't need to know that just from 20 minutes of reading that resources. Okay, and this is a practice question if you want to write yourself a short answer question. It might be something like this: list 3 signs and symptoms of Graves' disease. And then here are 3 signs and symptoms. You can actually see this is a really classic picture of a patient with Graves' disease. She had exophthalmos, which is the protruding of the eyes, that you can see here, a diffuse swelling in her thyroid gland, and she has a hyperthyroid state. So those are the kinds of things I want you to get started kind of preparing for and thinking about, being really active in your study habit and study practice. Dr. Okeke, if you're around, do you want to provide any encouragement around writing questions and thinking through those kinds of things as they start thinking about studying for their first class?
Yeah, active learning is the key here. Just to echo your sentiments, Associate Professor McGuire, practicing questions and also writing your own questions and writing those answers, really, really good way to actively learn. And then your study group, if everyone is writing practice questions and you all can exchange those questions and answer each other's questions and kind of talk through the rationale, like Associate Professor McGuire described, it was a really, really good way to test your knowledge and expand your knowledge. So keep practicing writing these questions, keep answering these questions and providing rationale as to why the answers are correct and while you're ruling out the ones that are not correct. So definitely echo those sentiments.
Thank you so much. So Dr. Okeke and Shanda and I and Retta and the entire admissions team and Dr. Owen and all of OU, I want to thank you all for joining us today. I'm sure you may be leaving with more questions than answers about what things are going to be like as you get started. And not to worry, that all of your questions will be answered, and the time for that mostly is next week, which is our orientation week, which is a week. So there's a series of live sessions you'll see pop up in your calendar if you haven't seen that already. And you also have access to the orientation classroom. So I really encourage you to go in there and start exploring some of those resources, see the activities that need to be completed over a week. If you have any questions in the interim between now and the start of a week, feel free to reach out to admissions or to myself or Dr. Okeke. We'll either answer you directly or provide you with the person who can answer your query or the resource that can do that. We're here to support you. We are so glad that you're able to join us for the study sessions. We look forward to seeing you in a week next week and in welcoming you into General Principles the week after that. So such an exciting time for all of you. I'm like super excited for each one of you. So thanks again, everyone. And we will chat with you all soon. Bye for now.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.